In 1989, the highways stretching across Florida carried millions of travelers through endless darkness, neon motel lights, and lonely roadside bars. Along those highways stood a woman hitchhiker with short blonde hair, worn clothes, and a life shaped entirely by violence, poverty, and survival. To passing drivers, she appeared broken, desperate, and harmless. Men picked her up believing they controlled the situation. Some expected sex. Others simply wanted company during long nighttime drives. But several of those men would never return home. Their bodies would later be discovered, abandoned in forests, near roadsides, or hidden in isolated parts of Florida. At first, police struggled to understand the murders because America had almost never seen a female serial killer operating with such violence. Serial murder had long been viewed as a crime committed almost exclusively by men. But somewhere on the highways of Florida, a woman named Aileen Wuornos was rewriting that assumption through bloodshed and fear. Her crimes would eventually shock the entire world, transforming her into one of the most infamous female serial killers in modern history. Aileen Carol Wuornos was born in Michigan in 1956 into a family already poisoned by violence and instability. Before she was even born, her father was arrested and later diagnosed as a violent psychopath who eventually committed suicide in prison. Her mother abandoned Aileen and her older brother shortly afterward, leaving them to be raised by grandparents inside a deeply dysfunctional household. Childhood for Aileen became a nightmare shaped by neglect, abuse, and humiliation. Her grandfather reportedly drank heavily and displayed violent behavior toward family members. By the age of 11, Aileen was already exchanging sexual acts for cigarettes, food, and small amounts of money. Schoolmates remembered her as angry, isolated, and emotionally unstable. At 14, she became pregnant after reportedly being sexually assaulted. The child was placed for adoption shortly after birth. Around the same period, her grandmother died while her grandfather threw Aileen out of the house entirely. Suddenly homeless, she began living in abandoned buildings and surviving however she could. Throughout her teenage years, Aileen drifted across states while surviving through theft, prostitution, and petty crime. By adulthood, prostitution became her primary means of survival. She traveled through Florida highways, working truck stops, bars, and roadside motels where lonely men frequently picked her up. Life on the streets hardened her emotionally while also deepening her paranoia and hatred toward men. The combination of trauma, mental instability, alcoholism, and violent survival instincts created a dangerous psychological state that worsened steadily during the late 1980s. In 1986, Aileen met a younger woman named Tyria Moore at a Florida bar. The two quickly became romantically involved and eventually lived together. While surviving financially through Wuornos' prostitution work, Aileen became emotionally obsessed with Moore, desperately fearing abandonment and wanting to provide financial stability despite constant poverty. Then, in late 1989, the murders began. The first known victim was Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old electronics store owner whose body was discovered abandoned in a wooded area. He had been shot multiple times with a .22 caliber pistol. But more bodies soon appeared across Florida. Truck drivers, businessmen, and middle-aged men disappeared after traveling highways where Aileen frequently worked as a prostitute. Victims were often found in remote locations with gunshot wounds and signs their cars or belongings had been stolen. Police slowly realized a pattern was emerging. Most victims had encountered a female hitchhiker or prostitute shortly before death. Over time, 6 more men were murdered. David Spears was found naked beside a highway after being shot multiple times. Charles Cascadon, a rodeo worker, disappeared before his body surfaced in a remote area. Additional victims included Troy Burrus, Dick Humphreys, Walter Antonio, and Peter Seams, who vanished completely. What shocked authorities most was the realization that the suspect appeared to be female. At the time, female serial killers remained extraordinarily rare. The idea of a woman hunting men along highways challenged every assumption investigators held about violent crime, Wuornos later claimed. Many of the killings happened in self-defense after clients attempted assault or rape. She portrayed herself as a victim forced into violence while working dangerous roads as a prostitute. However, prosecutors argued the evidence suggested robbery and calculated murder rather than desperate self-defense. The investigation accelerated rapidly once police connected pawnshop records and stolen property to Aileen and Moore. Witnesses identified the women driving vehicles belonging to victims. Fingerprints, personal belongings, and surveillance details slowly closed around them. Then came the turning point. Police located Moore in Pennsylvania and convinced her to cooperate. Facing enormous pressure and fear of prosecution herself, Moore agreed to help authorities. Detectives convinced her to contact Aileen by telephone repeatedly while secretly recording conversations. During emotional calls, Moore begged Aileen to confess and cooperate with police. Wuornos, emotionally dependent on Moore and terrified of losing her, eventually broke down psychologically. She admitted involvement in the killings while insisting many happened because men attacked or threatened her first. On January 9, 1991, police arrested Aileen Wuornos at a biker bar in Port Orange, Florida. News coverage exploded instantly. America became fascinated with the image of a female serial killer operating across highways traditionally associated with male predators. In 1992, Aileen Wuornos stood trial for the murder of Richard Mallory. The prosecution presented evidence linking her directly to the killing through fingerprints, stolen property, witness testimony, and recorded confessions. The defense argued Wuornos acted while defending herself against sexual violence. Ultimately, the jury rejected the self-defense claim. Wuornos was convicted and sentenced to death. Additional guilty pleas and convictions followed for the remaining murders. During the 1990s, Wuornos became the subject of documentaries, interviews, and endless media analysis. Some observers viewed her as a cold-blooded serial killer motivated by robbery and hatred. Others believed she represented the catastrophic result of lifelong abuse, neglect, prostitution, and untreated mental illness. Meanwhile, Wuornos' mental condition appeared to deteriorate further on death row. She accused prison officials of torture and claimed conspiracies surrounded her case. At times, she demanded execution immediately, insisting she wanted death rather than continued imprisonment. On October 9, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison. Before execution, she reportedly made bizarre statements involving returning after death. Moments later, one of America's most infamous female serial killers was pronounced dead. The story of Aileen Wuornos forced America to confront uncomfortable realities about trauma, prostitution, mental illness, and female violence. Unlike many serial killers driven by sadism or domination alone, Wuornos emerged from a life filled with extraordinary abuse, abandonment, poverty, and violence. Yet, despite that suffering, innocent people still lost lives along Florida highways. That contradiction remains central to why the case continues haunting public memory. Behind the headlines and courtroom drama existed a woman whose life seemed doomed almost from the beginning. A neglected child became a homeless teenager, then a prostitute surviving dangerous highways before finally transforming into a killer feared across Florida. For years, men driving lonely roads believed they controlled the women standing beside highways asking for rides. But hidden beneath Aileen Wuornos' damaged and desperate exterior existed someone capable of extraordinary violence. And long after her execution, the shadow of those crimes still lingers across the dark highways of Florida where 7 men disappeared. Forever after stopping to pick up a hitchhiker nobody believed could become one of America's most infamous serial killers.